All right, it's 6 o'clock, so we're going to begin our meeting this evening. The first meeting on tonight's agenda is our special budget hearing, so we're going to start with that this evening. We're going to do things a little bit out of order. We're going to do the presentation of the budget first, and then we'll have commentary or public forum with respect to budget comments. So if you have feedback you'd like to give on the budget, just know we might do a little out of order in the first one, and hopefully Jody has those. So I'll call the meeting to order of the Bennington Public Schools for this special budget hearing at 6 o'clock on September 11th. Our meetings are governed by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is on the south wall, and Jody has a copy as well. I think we'll begin with a presentation from Dr. Claus.
Perfect, thank you very much. Stacy, put that up there. Okay, so just wanted to kind of review the 23-24 budget and all that is going into that. This year is a little bit different year, and so I'm going to begin with talking a little bit about the changes from last year and the last 30 years up to this year. So, let me grab a clicker, sorry. Maybe. Okay, so things we'll go over is we'll talk about our growth. Obviously, that's something in Bennington that we always have to discuss. We're not like most school districts where we're just going up a couple kids a year. It's always a factor for us. Then we'll talk about revenue with our property taxes, state aid, and our other receipts. Then some of our budget limitations and levies that we're under from the state of Nebraska, followed by our general fund, bond funds, and then our new budget laws that we have to address as well. Okay, so we couldn't figure out exactly how to get this in we didn't want to have 45 slides. We tried to get them like 45 slides in one, but a lot of this is our new funding formula. And so I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page of exactly how things have changed over the last over the last year, and what the state says, how this impacts Bennington, and then how it might impact other districts that might be different than us. And so the salmon-looking column is the state, the blue column is Bennington, the green column is other school districts. So we're just going to kind of work our way down, so it'll help for context for later. First thing is equalization aid. And so this is one of the most important factors when it comes to us in our budget, because we are so reliant on equalization aid. What that means is each year the state determines what our basic funding needs are, and what that is, they tell us based on the number of students you have, the demographics of students that you have, based on what other schools and you have spent per student, this is how much that you need in order to operate your school system. Then they have a calculation of resources. The resources would be our local property taxes. It would be our other revenues that we receive from the state. And so they say you need this much. Based on your property taxes, you can generate this much, we'll fill in the gap. And that would be equalization aid. So you gotta think of a pop bottle being filled, whatever's not filled at the top, they would pour in equalization aid to get you where you need to be. And so we as a school district are really reliable on equalization aid. The local property taxes cover just over 43% of our total, and then the equalization aid is 27%. I believe we're the second most reliant in Metro, don't quote me on that one. But we need a lot of equalization aid. So our story is significantly different than most other district stories. On the flip side, I'll just give you the example of the district I came from at Lakeview. it would say through the funding formula, we need X amount of dollars in order to operate, but with your local property taxes, you can generate a lot more than what you need, which means that our levy was lower than the $1.05 or lower than the maximum, because that we didn't need it in order to operate. Bennington's the exact opposite. And so when we look at other schools, they have a different story. Everybody's story is a little bit different equalization aid. Now with that, the valuation is in conjunction with your resources. And so when Bennington needs X amount, but we can generate this much, as our valuation increases, it goes up, but it doesn't mean that it fills the entire bucket. That's when the equalization aid has to come in. So what happens is the following year, our state aid decreases. So as valuation goes up, state aid comes down in the following year. So we've got to always be thinking about that at Bennington. It's not just about today, it's about next year, and it's about the year after as well. And so when we budget, we try to do it over a 3-year lens, knowing we've received a 21% valuation this year, which is huge. It's obviously a really big valuation increase. The following year, we're going to lose an equal amount of equalization aid. So it's money in, money out the following year. For schools that don't need equalization aid, valuation increases, just increase their resources, so they're able to lower the levy even more so. Foundation aid is a new component. You've probably read about it in the news, where every student in the state of Nebraska receives $1,500 in aid. That results in $0 for Bennington because it comes off of equalization aid. Let's pretend like our equalization aid was $1,000 per student, then we would receive $500 extra per student. If our equalization aid was 0, we would receive $1,500 more per student. Because Bennington receives significantly more than $1,500 in equalization aid per student, it results in $0 for us. So it comes off the top of equalization aid. It's $6 million for us, but when we were receiving $18 million in equalization aid, now we only receive $12 million in equalization aid. So it doesn't result in any additional funds for Bennington, where it might for another school district. And so that's something important to keep in mind. The second big component of the new foundation, or the new state funding model, is special education funding. Currently or previously, whatever was spent on special education needs, the following year you're reimbursed at 50% of what you spent. That is now 80% of what you spent. And so this is going to generate for all districts in the state of Nebraska. We're anticipating that generating just over $1.7 million for Bennington, which is 3.22% of our budget. So I think that 3.22 is inaccurate. That's something you want to keep in mind. Again, equalized, unequalized, it doesn't matter. All schools are receiving that extra special education funding. Student enrollment growth, when it comes to the state of Nebraska, a reminder that they grow at 0.8% as a general rule throughout the state. Bennington has been between 5 and 10% every year. That complicates our budget process because we have so many more students every year compared to a district that doesn't fluctuate in enrollment that much. When it comes to other districts, very few in the history of Nebraska have experienced the enrollment growth that Bennington has. The last thing is just the levy reductions. So the added money from foundation aid, the added money from state funding. The state will tell you that should result in property taxes lowering. At Bennington, we are proposing that we would lower our levy, our general fund levy, by 5 cents. That's 4.76% of our limit. And then we're also proposing our bond fund between bonds and QC puff to go down 1.7 cents. And so a total of a 7 cent levy increase. A 7 cent levy decrease this year. Metro, you're going to see it all over the place. You're going to see as low as 10. You're going to see as high as 15. It's because of all the factors that we talked about above. They hit every school district a little bit differently. Okay, so some actual numbers for us. We have grown as of September 1st. We had a 4.3% growth this year. We are just under 4,200 kids, and we are estimating to still be over 5,000 by the 27-28 school year. So we just continue to grow at a lightning pace compared to most districts. Ran the numbers multiple ways, and they all kind of continue to show the same thing. We're going to be over 5,000 in a 4 to 5 year period. We are now up to 513 staff members with 358 certified and 155 support staff. As our number of students grow and our needs grow in the district, obviously our staff grows as well, as it's such a huge part of our budget. Property taxes, we're proposing a request of $24,265,997. A reminder, 1% of that goes to the county, to the treasurer's office, and so you automatically take 1% off the top. That's their fee for for what they do. This would represent a $2,163,886 increase. Our general fund, this would be 39.47% of the total general fund revenue. And so what our general fund revenue is, property taxes account for just under 40% of that. In addition, proposing a special building fund levy of $1,223,469. That is, we have not levied much into the special building fund in previous years. I feel like that's important moving forward because one, we have significant capital needs within the district. Two, if we don't have any facility enhancements into the future, we're going to need this to ensure that we can just keep up with our student population. And then the third part is if we were to run a bond, we'd be able to pay for part of it out of the special building fund, thus offsetting the bond in equal amount. And so it's kind of a multi-purpose role to it. I don't like that bulleted these, but just for reference, we receive about 97% of our total tax revenue from Douglas County, about 3% from Washington County, and we have increased now with residential that pays their portion at 92.32%. That is a staggering amount compared to most school districts with the amount of residential. We just don't have tons of ag, and we don't have tons of commercial in our total assessed valuation. Sorry, and there's kind of the numbers that went with it, so you can see what our district valuation has done throughout the last 5 years. It's gone from 1.5 billion to 2.5 billion. This is where it comes in early and say, well, how do we go up $1 billion in valuation, but our levy has not gone down halfway? It's because of the equalization aid. As the valuation's gone up, the equalization rate has gone down. We just don't have the resources to fill the hole. 10-year average of about 175 million per year valuation increase, which is about 12.5 or 12%, just over 12%. So last year we experienced just over a 13% valuation increase. Again, to kind of come back to that point, we are very state aid reliant, equalization aid reliant. Because of the larger valuation increase that we received last year with our valuation, our state aid subsequently went down this year. And so it did go down just under $500,000. That's the first decrease in 10 years. And so it's been over 10, every year that number has increased, and this year it dropped the first time in over 10 years. And so, that tells you that we're maybe getting to a point where as we get these valuation increases, our state aid is starting to dwindle. We're getting enough population here, enough residential, at least with the value of homes, that maybe our state aid is going to start to decrease over time. I'd imagine this is going to be another large number decrease the following year. Two things of note, or one thing of note I want to put on that, a new school adjustment. And so part of the state aid formula is when you open a new building, you are eligible for more state aid. And so last year we opened 2 buildings, brought in approximately $2.5 million of state aid. Then year 2, so we're year 2 this year, it gets cut in half. So we went from 2.5 to 1.25. Next year it goes to 0. And so we are going to lose another $1.2 million of state aid the following year just by the function of the system. So we got a lot of extra money. 22, 23 gets cut in half this year, goes to 0 the following year. State aid accounts for just under 37% of our general fund revenue. So between property taxes and state aid, you're at about 77% of all of it. Other receipts, so we got the state aid, we've got valuation, property taxes. These are kind of the others. And so we get a variety of money that comes in from different sources, the federal government. We talk about our special education reimbursement. We get a portion of motor vehicle taxes, state apportionment, homestead exemption, all of those. And so those are up there for you. You see a $2,850,000 increase this year. 1.7 million of that is the special education we were just talking about. So we have a huge increase, 2.8 million. 1.7 is that special education alone. In addition, ESSER funds that came out through the American Rescue Plan that we've been expending and getting reimbursed over the last several years. We're kind of on our last round. And so that'll be a $624,000 increase this year. Again, will not be there the following year. And so just something that we start to plan out multiple years in advance. Another 625 is dropping off the following year. And so all other extra receipts, 10,784,257. With that, we have budget limits and levy. Our general fund limitations, we're assuming a general fund revenue of $53,189,871. Our expenditure limit by the state, so the state allows budget authority to grow by 2% each year. Our budget authority puts us at $52,751,851. And so our revenues are just over 53, our state expenditure limit is just under 52, or just under 53. With that, proposing a levy reduction of 6.76 cents. This will be the lowest levy that Bennington has had in 12 years, which is exciting. The general fund levy going to 95 cents would be the lowest that's been in 17 years. And so those are all positives, going from $1.42 to $1.35. With that, general fund levy 95, the building fund like we talked about, which can be used for multiple purposes, both current and in the future, at 4.8 cents. Our bond fund will stay at 34 cents, and then the QC puff at 1.8 cents for a combined $1.35.8 cents. Okay, on the general fund budget side, you see an actual general fund budget. That's the expected expenditures this year. So we actually expect to spend $51,615,779. That is a little bit different than our state general fund budget, which is the limitation that we showed you before. As a district, you typically want to ensure that on the state form you're utilizing all of your budget authority. That way, if something ever happens, you have the ability to access the funds. But that's not what we're going to expect to spend this year. We're going to expect to spend the $51.6 million that's on the top. A few just informational items about it. Personnel, so our payroll, so both salary and benefits that come with the salary makes up 77.11% of our budget. So 77% of our budget is people. This year, our personnel increase was just about 3.7 million. And so of all of the increases from last year to this year, just under 97% of that was people. So we're not spending money many other places outside of it. We're just hiring more people with the growth that comes with that as well. So our payroll increase was 10.26, and our accounts payable increase is estimated at 1%. Something that I just think is important to note, Bennington has a higher tax rate within the metro and the state of Nebraska. A lot of that is due to facilities. If you took out the facilities and you just looked at what we're spending per pupil, we're $2,990 under the state average, or we spend on a pupil outside of facilities about 79% of the state average. And so some of that we can do with economy of scale. Some of it is obviously we have a lot invested in our facilities just trying to keep up with the amount of student growth that we have. That is the lowest in the state of Nebraska. A breakdown of our expected expenditures, just all instructional expenditures are 53%, special education being about 12.5%, support services at 8%. Our state and federal expenditures account for about 2.76%. Maintenance and operations, obviously you got 8 buildings and over $1 million worth of buildings to obtain, about 11%. Administration is 6.84%, and then just others are 5.4%. Bond fund, just want to make sure that we're on the same page with our bond fund. 6 bonds have been issued since 2003. Those have had a total principal of $198 million. Since 2004, the levy has ranged from about 26 cents to 38 cents. This is actually 2 funds when I say this. This is both the bond fund and the QC Puff fund. So if you add those together, that's what we're talking about here, because there is a bond and the QC Puff fund. And so bond levy is proposed at 35.8 cents, which generates just over $9.2 million. So we would have a 1.8 cent decrease from last year to this year. So I think that's part of that 7 cents important to note. Currently, the district has $172 million, $630,000 in outstanding debt at this time. That's obviously a pretty high amount of debt, but it's not quite as grim as the number. We do have funds that we've generated that could pay down. Obviously, it's not today, but as those come up. And so within our QC Puff fund, we have close to potentially $4 million to get that bond paid down. And then we have a reserve within our bond fund that we use to make payments. It's going to catch us up. It's just going to take 10, 15 years before we can spend it. So we do have some funds generated in there as well. just to make our bond payment, that's something that we always look at, what can we generate with our bond fund in order to make our bond payment. We have to average a 6.5% valuation increase over the next 4 years to make our payment in 27, 28. That's how it's structured, and so we've got to continue to make sure that we can make those payments into the future as well. Coming out in the mail, and there's a joint public hearing, which is a new statute that came out last year that applies to counties, cities, school districts, and community colleges, that if you raise your tax asking by more than 2%, minus your bonds, then you would go to a joint meeting where we kind of go through all of this again, and you can hear public comment from multiple entities all at once. And so joint public meeting for us is on September 20th. A lot of our patrons are going to receive a pink postcard in the mail over the next couple weeks, alerting them to when the meeting would be and what our proposed tax levy is, and when that is. And so I just wanted to go over a few questions. Why did our patrons receive this? Our tax asking is going up more than 2% plus growth, and so we're mandated to attend the meeting. Does it mean my taxes are going up? Not necessarily. It depends on the valuation of your home. And so we are lowering the levy almost 5% total. If the valuation of your home went up more than 5%, then taxes are probably going up. If your valuation of your home didn't go up more than 5%, then your taxes would go down. And so it just kind of depends property by property. And then, like I said there, why did the levy's going down? Why did my taxes go up? It's because of the valuation of the homes, which, the school district doesn't have any, we don't get to set that. That's all done through the assessor's office. That's all. Any questions? Okay.
All right, we'll now proceed with the public comment phase of our budget hearing. It looks like we only have one, but if anybody came in late and would like to speak, we have the orange sheets in the back. If you can fill one of those out and give it to Jody, we're happy to have you speak this evening. The first person up is Carol Dussel-Cerny. As she's coming up, I'll kind of give our ground rules for those that are new this evening. We typically allow 3 minutes or so to speak with respect to any public comments. Please keep personnel information out of the commentary, and we generally don't respond. This is our chance to listen to your feedback, and then we will have Dr. Claus or someone from the administration get back to folks within a reasonable time period. So that is the plan for this evening. Carol, you're up first.
Well, I'll try. I was kind of assuming 5 minutes, so I'm going to talk fast or something because some of my I wrote it last night just so you know. And some of the questions got answered, but I'm just going to read it because otherwise it'll really get ugly. What I've been looking for, I guess, in conversations at our house. Last November, obviously we all know there's a school bond issue and it got defeated. There was lots of discussion and concerns over, we had a high debt ratio of 9%. Cities only can get 5%. We have a high debt compared to our students, the highest in the nation. We've only paid down 20 million, all of those kinds of things. We don't have a fiduciary. We have the interest only, and there was some discussion even of tonight on that. And the bond issue to me made it very clear that finances do matter and the public didn't want to continue on the path that we had been on. So I've just kind of been watching and listening. I've seen some positive things since then, and I think that's good. We have a new school board, a new superintendent, and I see some positive things going on there. At the workshop, I noted that we had the proposals, and what I didn't kind of hear after coming to the workshop was why we were doing what we were doing so that history isn't repeating itself. What did we learn from the past so that we can go forward and not repeat and continue to have the same problems? I don't know that anyone in the bond issue was doubting that we have growth and that we need new space, but it was just the finances weren't there. So, why did we let an underwriter not allow us to pay down extra on the debt? I heard that at the workshop, that that's not something that we can do, except for every few years. And so what are we doing to get us in a better place now or going forward than we have been in the past? So I'm anxious to hear that. And I see some things in here, but I guess I don't really feel like I have the answers to those questions yet certainly not that I could go home and say, oh, here's the answer. I see some, sorry. I got the explanation of the state expenditure limits and the special bond fund that I think I got answered. We're increasing that fund, but decreasing the general fund. But we've had for a lot of years where we were at that maximum, and I appreciate very much the interest going down. But again, where did that money in the past go? So we're not repeating that again. Where we had the max we had valuation increases, we were at 1.05, and we were spending that money on something, and that was, valuations were going up 10, 15%, and I know my budget at my house wasn't doing that. So I'm looking for those kinds of answers as we go through the budget process to say, what did we learn, and how are we making this better so that the taxpayers can say, yeah, I feel comfortable with this going forward, that we're making improvements. Those, I guess, are my big questions. And then one, it's kind of a budget request, kind of not, so I'm gonna just say it here, is when we do the monthly, when you guys go through the monthly bills, I mean, I kind of look, and I'm sure everyone does, and says, oh, this is a big amount, or this is an unusual name. It would be nice to get just randomly pick some of those that maybe would draw attention either by name or number and say what they are. I'm sure when you're looking at them, they make sense, but when you're just looking at a list, you go, oh, I wonder what that's for. So that would be kind of nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. You have one more? All right. Rich Carlson,
Just take a minute.
take your time.
My name is Rich Carlson. I live at 10420 North 189th Avenue. On the budget, I have a question on the motor vehicle taxes. Could you draw that line up? And here's kind of my question, and you guys got to help me think. I know years ago, 20 years ago, I had a business, and a few of my trucks, I absolutely knew they would never leave Douglas County. They were called local plates. I put local plates on it, and I didn't have to pay taxes throughout the whole state. I don't know if that's usable now, or this entity wants to use it. I know a lot of your buses go to many different schools throughout the state, and those wouldn't qualify. But if you've got some vehicles that are in Douglas County, and I believe it's one county adjacent, it's called a local plate. You'll find a lot of businesses once in a while used to utilize that. And I think it could save some money. I don't know if it's even on the books to be legal to do it now, but it never hurts to ask a question if it can save us a little money. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
You know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Rich. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening on the budget? All right, this evening, I don't believe there's any further business, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Tim. Second, you want to call the roll, Jody?
I
Good measure.
Okay. Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
6:26 p.m.
Meeting adjourned at 6:26 p.m. All right, we will move right into our regular Board of Education meeting. And call that meeting to order at 6:27. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Just as a note, the meetings are governed by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A copy is located on the back wall. We'll begin this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will go through to public forum. So I guess we will start there. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to begin with our public forum for our regular board meeting. Same rules as before. Thank you, Carol, for reminding me. I think we do 5 minutes. I don't know why I was thinking 3, so.
They tried to cut out because I'm like, I have planned out some more.
So I think we have one individual, Tracy Baker is up first. Just a reminder, we'll keep it to 5 minutes, and any items that you need answered, hopefully we'll have the administration follow up with you, but we don't typically engage all the same rules. And if anybody else would like to speak, please grab an orange flyer in the back and bring it up here.
Right, I want to ask those questions, do I need new forms?
Yes.
Hi, I just want to first, thanks for you for being here. It's been a great start to the school year. I can't be more thankful than to the staff at Bennington South Middle School. Maddie's having a great time. She loves her teachers, and I just couldn't be more happy. And I hope this is okay. I just want to say a thank you to the administration. I didn't know this, wasn't aware of this until recently, but there is a federal law that September 17th is Constitution Day, and it's to be taught in the schools. So I have made a donation to Bennington South Middle School for each 8th grader to get a little pocket constitution. And I just want to say thanks to the administration for allowing me to do that. Otherwise, just, I could have spoke at the other hearing, I guess, but just a few thoughts on the budget and our levy as well. I know the district is really big on talking about the fact that we are the lowest cost per pupil in the state. However, I think that's a number for people, it's hard to wrap your head around exactly what that means. It's not really tangible to me in dollars and cents. What makes sense to me is my levy and what I'm paying for property taxes. So what I can state then too, and this was information gathered last year from a person smarter than myself, but Bennington has, well, last year, I don't know if that still stands true, had the second highest levy in the state. Bennington, as Carol stated, has one of the highest debt to student ratios in the nation for a school size, 1,000 to 10,000. And then as Dr. Plow stated, we're 92% residential, which is unusually high, and so the burden falls on residential taxpayers. Just in the 6 short years I've owned my second home in Bennington, my valuation has increased over 52%. It's up 35 this year. That has equated to over $5,600 in additional taxes that I'm paying. My raise this year was less than 1%. My home is 12 years old. It needs a new HVAC. It needs exterior paint. And with the current economic climate, I mean, these are things that I can't even afford to do right now. We are being told a 6.5 valuation increase is needed over the next 4 years in order to make the 27-28 bond payment. There again, just putting pen to paper, if my valuation were to increase 6.5% over the next 4 years, that would again mean an additional $4,400 a year I'm paying in taxes by 2017. That would be putting me at $18,000 a year. We are being taxed out of our homes. I get that part of that is a state problem. I mean, it's valuations, it's, you know, what have you, but the fact of the matter is, you know, something somewhere needs to be done. So we're lowering the levy, I think is great, but to be honest, I mean, we obviously need a bond to pass, which I'm sure is going to erase whatever relief we may have this year or in the coming years. What I asked from the district, because this is something Dr. Hawk wasn't agreeable to, but going forward and you know, further conversations, obviously, once we get to a point where we decide to pass another bond. But I think what was most important to me or troublesome to me is the wording that we were using in the mailers and the marketing materials and as far as the bond, is that there is no cap to the bond levy. So like if we don't meet that 6.5 valuation growth over the next 4 years, that bond levy can be raised to whatever it needs to be without a vote of the people. And so that to me is similar to a variable loan. And this is conversations I'd had with Dr. Hawk during the fall sessions last year in regards to the bond. And so I know in a lot of the marketing material pieces, it was like, oh, maximum of $30. And it was like, well, no, that's not exactly true. You know, if we don't hit these valuation amounts, it could be more than that. They removed maximum. What I really wanted to see was again, an asterisk saying, hey, if we don't hit valuation projections, we can raise this to whatever we need to. And that could, you know, potentially mean an outrageous increase in our bond levy and a surprise to everyone that, oh, hey, you're gonna be paying a much larger amount in bond levy. So anyways, just some thoughts going forward once we start to think about passing the bond is is again, just being really open and transparent as to what that potential increase could mean. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy.
Here, let me get that for you.
All right, Carol?
I just have a couple of questions that were, and I'm curious, one of the slides showed that we had state and federal expenditures of, I don't remember, there was a chunk of money. I just was curious, like, I don't know what we paid to the state and federal government. So that was a curiosity. And then the increases in personnel, obviously, that's a huge percentage of the, was that new teachers, was it raises, was it benefits? What particular, place was that? And then this is just a curiosity question, and I know it's been discussed at a board meeting before, is our district policy of paying 100% of family health and dental insurance for all of our employees. That puts single employees at a substantial compensation disadvantage compared to their peers who are married or have spouses. So just wondering if anyone had ever looked into what the cost of that is and how that affects, I'm gonna say, your single employees, because they're getting a lot less in compensation than someone who's got a spouse or family. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Carol. All right, after public forum, we have our consent agenda, and these items are approval of the agenda, minutes from our prior meetings, presentation of September bills and personnel. And I believe Steve and I had bills this month. Are you gonna get my report, or do you have any specifics? So I just wanted to note for the board that we did purchase the Amplify Education, which I believe was the ELA, the remainder of the ELA curriculum, which was about $624,000, so that was a big number this month. I know we voted on that previously. RTG Building Services is one that comes up, and it's a high number. That's our cleaning company. They do a great job, but $87,000 a month, it's expensive. And then the last one I wanted to mention was there's a payment here to UNO for our cadre teachers for $84,000, so that's two of those are portion of it. So those are the two or three items of note. I don't know if you have anything else.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry.
What was the UNO? I didn't hear it, I'm
For
sorry.
the cadre teachers.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I believe we just need a motion on the consent agenda. All right, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jody?
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes. Motion passes. We'll now move to our reports and presentations to the board, and we're beginning with Mr. Is it Dice?
Oh, and we're switching, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't see him here. Okay.
I'm new.
Mrs. Evangelisti, welcome, thank you. From Pine Creek.
Allison Evangelisti from South Pine Creek. The elementary report this month highlights the PTO fundraisers that are coming up this month. Each of the elementary PTOs does a fundraiser. This is the one big fundraiser they do each year. So we expect high enthusiasm from the students and participation from the families. We just listed out what date each fundraiser will be and what the theme is, as well as what each PTO is hoping to spend their money on. Any questions? Except for, do I look like Mr. Teeth?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Rappleback, Bennington South.
Good evening. Lucas Alphabet, principal at Bennington South Middle School. September is a great month for middle school. Students are getting into a good rhythm and routine. And one of the best parts is extracurricular activities and clubs. A great way to see students outside of the class setting. Our sports seasons for the fall are underway with football, volleyball, and cross country. We've also started our clubs as well. One of the highlights for Bennington South is on Thursday, I believe, Jim Flannery, the Creighton girls basketball coach, is going to be presenting to some members of our student senate in service club about leadership. So a great opportunity and some connections of working to get some guest speakers into Bennington South. We also kicked off the school year right away with NSCAS testing, which students love. It's a great data point to help us when it comes to our math and reading support. One thing that's unique at the middle school is students who are in need of math and reading support, we do during their SST time instead of some other districts that might pull from exploratory. So great opportunity to work on some of those skilled areas while not having to pull them from other classes as well. Any questions? Thank you.
Right, our high school report.
Good evening, Greg Lamberty, Bennington High School Principal. We are 2 weeks away from the ever popular homecoming week. So we have that the 25th through the 29th. That's put on by Student Senate. So they will have themed dress-up days running throughout the week. We run a pep rally on that Friday. For the students, it's a little different. We go out to the stadium, weather permitting, rather than be inside. And we do the coronation after the football game on Friday night, and then following the coronation, Mr. Hankey and Midwest Fireworks will be shooting off a post-game show again, which is extremely popular. And then we do a homecoming dance on Saturday. Right now, that's scheduled from 7 to 10 at Bennington High School. A couple other items just of note. Kind of to echo Mr. Hasselbeck, it's a busy month, athletics, academics, it's a full month of school. We do have a golf invite tomorrow. Coincidentally, we have to do the Bennington invite up at Blair at River Wiles. Thursday this week is our Bennington cross-country invite, which is run on our campus. And then the first Saturday in October, I think in conjunction with the city's Founders Day celebration somewhat, we do have the Bennington Marching Invitational, which is scheduled for our stadium that begins at noon and goes till about 4 o'clock. So, any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bombeck with Student Services.
Hi, Dan Bombeck, Student Services Director. Our teachers are starting to get to know our kids really well, and as we want to get into the year and we want them to be prepared for academics, we also want to have them prepared and ready to do that. So one of the things I wanted to highlight tonight is just our contract with Arbor Family Counseling. Some of our students have some additional needs that they just need to talk through and work through so that they can be ready for academics in the academic environment. So we have a contract with them to provide those additional services. As you can see, it's broken down there for the level of building. As you know, we have a couple more hours available at the elementary just due to the growth. We also have some additional hours that we have available to be able to fit in wherever we need those, if those needs pop up. Along with that, we also want to make sure our employees have some access to this as they may experience some difficulties throughout the year. So we have 3 free counseling sessions for staff and for the immediate family members so that they can work through those issues and really focus on being back with our kids when they're able to. And then finally, we also have a couple free sessions for our students per year. Any questions? Thank you.
Dr. Bodekamp with Operations.
Matt Bodekamp, Assistant Superintendent. Good evening. Kind of look at the last 3 bullets on there, the last 3 paragraphs. Dr. Plaza, Mr. Kessel, and I had an opportunity to meet with our Bennington Youth Football program here earlier this year. Also had a chance to visit with the youth soccer. Happy to say that with the fields at Bennington South Middle School now being ready to be used, we were able to open up some of those fields for some of those activities and provide some more access for those 2 organizations at Bennington South Middle School. We're going to have a meeting with all of our youth presidents here on the 27th of September. We've not done that before. We're going to start to try to do that once a year, be able to answer some questions, provide some information. When there's turnover in president, it seems like there's some turnover in what we teach them to do in order to be able to help maintain our facilities and use our facilities. And so we're just going to start having our yearly meeting where we have a chance to sit down and talk to those organizations. So that comes up here in just a couple of weeks. The second to last paragraph, just some information about busing and charter buses. That always seems to come up every year on when and why and how we use charter buses. Our practice has been for quite a while that any activity that's over 300 miles, if available, we would charter a bus if we could. Now, I will say I happened to be on that bus about 5 years ago. We were on our way out to Gearing for a district soccer championship. It was Berkshire Hathaway weekend. We were not able to get a charter and we rode a yellow bus out there. That's not because we wanted to, we just could not get a charter bus to go out that way. But generally anything over 300 miles, when our volleyball team goes out to Alliance, or we've had basketball teams that have gone west, or wrestling teams, so on and so forth, we will charter. However, at times, because of the number or the volume of activities we have on any one given day, we don't have enough buses to service all the activities that we need to transport. At which point we look at chartering buses on those days as well. So for an example, a week ago on Thursday, our cross-country teams took a charter bus to Seward, to the Seward Invitational at Concordia. That's not outside of 300 miles, but we did not have enough buses in order to transport all of our students that day. And so that's why we chartered that bus. So that hopefully clears up some confusion. At times people have questions about that. We try to be as equitable as we possibly can, so both our boys and our girls programs have the opportunity to ride charter buses as often as we can get them that availability when we don't have yellow buses that are available just due to routes or due to other activities. And then the last thing, had a chance here in the last 2 weeks to do our 12-month or 11-month walkthroughs with our construction companies and DLR at Stratford Elementary with Prairie Construction, at Bennington South Middle School with Housing Construction, and then just this last week out at the Badger Stadium and the softball complex and our parking lot with Midwest DMC. We've done punch list items and are working on completing those for all 3 of those projects. Questions from my report that I can answer?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Hoagie?
Good evening, Dee Hovey, Assistant Superintendent. On my report, almost the entire front of the page is about assessment time. As we kick off every new school year, and then again in the middle of the year and at the end of the year, we go through a benchmarking season so that we can measure where our students are today and how we can help them move to the next level. And so we have participated in MAT growth testing with our K-2 students and our 9th and 10th graders. We participated in the state testing program and SCAS growth in our 3rd through 8th grade as well. Those scores individually are available to students and teachers will share that. At conference time, parents will be shared that full information as well. And then spring information from the state test will soon be available for individual families. And as soon as the state releases that data in group format is all embargoed by the state, which means that we can't share that publicly for any comparison school to school until all of that is finalized by the state of Nebraska. So if that comes out before our next board meeting, I will share that in October, otherwise November, hopefully we will have all of that. So, but there's a lot of information and assessments we gather on students. Our new reading series, we are using DIBELS and M-Class as part of that, and learning fine skills that our students have and areas that we'll be working with them. We do similar benchmarking in mathematics as well in our elementary classrooms. And so we really look at the whole student as we go and plan skill by skill how we can move those things forward for kids. So busy times in our classrooms, and wanted to share that with you. Anything that I can answer at this point?
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, Dr. Claus, you're up.
Okay, first thing I have is just the budget approval process, just a kind of a reminder, it's been an ongoing one for the last couple of months. Today we had our budget hearing on the 20th, well, the joint public hearing that we discussed earlier. The 25th, we have a special meeting set to approve the budget and the property tax request resolution. And then that gives us 5 days to get everything put together and then down to the county by the end of September. So we're getting closer. Next thing I have is just the superintendent teacher advisory committee. This is something that was discussed during the interview process as a transitionary item. Where we get a team of teachers together The teachers were selected by their building leadership teams. Every building has 2 teachers that are present. We just get a chance to get together and start talking about school. And so topics included the budget, culture, systems, facility enhancements, just all of those things that are going on, where I can hear from them, they can hear from me, and they can help provide suggestions to help me serve them better. And so we had our first meeting a few weeks ago. It was just a bunch of really good, talented educators, and enjoyed getting to know them and just talking school. So we'll keep doing that throughout the course of the year. Next one is our ECF grant, which is a technology grant that we received. We got word of it a week or 2 ago for $290,000 this year, which is huge and awesome. This proposal was submitted almost 2 years ago by Mr. Uckman. He had, I think, multiple revisions, and they told him no, but like his junior homecoming, he kept coming after him, and eventually gave him the grant, right? And so it'll cover new iPads, K through 1, and then also a Chromebook replacement cycle for 1 year. So I just want to make sure to recognize Mr. Uckman for all of his work on that, his persistence, and obviously we're going to reap the benefits as a school system. So appreciate all he did there. Next one is our Eastern Midlands Conference. Had an EMC meeting a few weeks ago. There was discussed on a potential request from Lincoln Pius to join the conference. Currently, we have Bennington, Elkhorn North, Norris, Waverly, Hastings, Blair, Standing Bear, and Lincoln Northwest. Standing Bear and Lincoln Northwest are the newer schools in Lincoln, so they've joined the conference. There's not a formal request at this point from Lincoln Pius, but I wanted to at least give you an opportunity if you have any opinions on that topic, if there does become a request. I'm going to put it in the spot, but if there's anything anyone wants to say.
Remind me what conference they're currently in.
I think they're in the HAC, if I remember right. So that would be the Harvard Athletic Conference within Lincoln. And so Lincoln Pius was Class B for several years, and then about the last 7 to 10 or something there, they've been Class A. I think they're forecasting, they think they'll come back to B for the foreseeable future. That's what they're saying at this point. So I think they're just kind of fishing around, figuring out where they land moving forward. So if you have any strong opinions on that, please let me know. Next thing is just negotiations. Just a reminder that we've got some deadlines coming around. November 1st, we have to begin negotiations prior to that. If by next February there's no agreement, we have to submit to our resolution officer by March 15th. They would do a fact finding and mediation must end. And then a CIR would issue a decision by September 15th of next year. And so I want to get those are 4 statutory requirements, make sure those are there. And then just building a finance committee. Here we go, negotiation season's around the corner. I would like to lie to you and say we have everything prepared. We can hand you all those numbers today, but we don't. So the coming weeks, we'll get those all ready and look forward to working with all parties involved. Last one, just for informational purposes, I think, oftentimes in the district office, people don't know exactly what we're doing from day to day, but there is kind of a large collection you might hear me refer to throughout the month of October, coming up on October 15th, where we have, I think, 8 different reports that we have to submit. These reports help shape our information that we're providing to NDE that then determines our state aid, it determines our formula students, it determines all those things. And so between the assistant superintendents and directors and myself, we'll be working on these and getting them all submitted by October 15th. When we went through the budgeting process, we kind of talked about all the assumptions and the factors that go into what determines state aid. Some of these are in here. And so after October 1st, our enrollment gets locked down, which then can help us determine formula students. And then as we finish these reports, it can help us determine what that's going to look like for next year. So that picture becomes clearer and clearer and clearer throughout this school year for next. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our committee reports. The Building and Finance Committee met twice this month.
Sorry.
Just wanted to highlight a couple of items, but certainly Lieutenant Jeremy chime in as well. We have been working diligently with both Dr. Plaza and McCann, trying to figure out a plan for maintenance and repairs and projects and getting authority to replace things that are breaking. I think we're getting to that point where things are just breaking down. So getting some leaky windows fixed and a new mail van and an upgrade to the sound system at the stadium, which I think Cole will probably be excited about. So these were a couple of items we talked about. The other topic we discussed was just generally potential district facility needs and who the key stakeholders were on our team. And we did have a discussion about whether we continue using DLR as the architectural firm, the pros and cons. And obviously, we're pretty well underway with the design phase on potential high school. So the committee does recommend continuing on, just given the time frame involved. We understand with the enrollment numbers, we're gonna need a facility at some point, and so the recommendation was to continue on with DLR. We also discussed the bond underwriting firms, and we're gonna open that up for interviews with Piper Sandler and D.A. Davidson, just to kind of look and get an understanding of what those two firms can offer. So the Building and Finance Committee will be meeting with those two companies within the coming weeks, and we'll report back at the end of the month, our next board meeting. And then lastly, the construction manager. So we did discuss the construction manager at risk, just for the new board members. That's a new policy that we implemented last February, March timeframe, so that we can do the facility construction using that policy. And what we decided was it would probably make the most sense given the time frame involved. Hausman was the lowest cost provider by far, and we had a really good experience with them on Bennington South Middle School. So the vote from the committee was to move forward with Hausman. Any other topics that you guys want to mention? It was a lot, so I'm sure I missed something.
And more to come.
I know. So just kind of reviewing the team right now, making sure we have the right players in place when the time comes and we're ready to go, and making sure we're getting everybody up to speed with a lot of players. So. Any other questions? Curriculum committee met, I believe. Somebody want to report on that?
We did meet. It was kind of finalizing some of the proposals, talking those through. Probably the larger part of the meeting was more on the process that we use, and kind of going through that, talking about what we feel comfortable with, maybe some changes that we can make. And the administration had some great suggestions too that they came to us with, possibly some changes or tweaks to the system. So I thought it was a really, really good discussion.
I agree.
And then the policy committee is meeting at the end of the month. We're meeting up, so we're kind of spacing out the meetings, but so we'll have more to report in our next board meeting. All right, next up is our coordinator report, and this evening it's our communication plan from Stacy Vaughn.
Works now. I'm okay.
Stacy's more talented than I am. She can do two things at once.
I just gotta turn the clicker on and turn it on for you. All right. Again, Stacy, my communication coordinator, just kind of go through a little bit of the plan that I have for this coming school year. And it went through the entire thing.
Not very talented.
Okay, objectives. These are ones that I just kind of start with. This is my overall objectives for the year. And so it's enhance and grow the awareness and identification of the brand, and use that through the use of strategic communication, improve overall climate of staff through increased recognition and communication, evaluate the use of our mass communication systems used in our district and the needs of staff and parents, and improve student achievement through strategic communication that connects parents to the classroom. The brand awareness, again, it's developing the brand, continuing that, and the awareness of that. I would love to expand the brand book and really help all of our staff throughout all of the schools have a brand within their own school. And then look at trademarking our brand, so that way we can make sure it is used properly. Of course, we're going to continue to tell those stories of the great things happening in our classrooms each and every day. And I'm going to continue to work with our webmasters to ensure that our websites are up to date. Staff climate. So last year we started the Badger Memo, which is our staff newsletter. It goes out every Thursday. On an average, it is read about 1,086 times a week. So this year we have 513 staff. So, which means it really is working. It's a great place for them. It's a one-stop shop. They can go back and look at it multiple times. So that really does tell me that they are using that. We created a district who to contact, which really helped with our new staff and new administrators. So it was, they could look at that at a glance of who to contact when they need something at the district office. So that really helped them in their transition. We are launching a new staff recognition program. It is called a Shine Your Light Award. We launched that last week. So colleagues can nominate each other for just going above and beyond, doing something nice, a little bit of anything. And then we'll choose two staff members each month and recognize them with a Shine Your Light Award. And that program is generously funded by our school's foundation. So we will be doing that. And then we're also launching a monthly employee appreciation program. So each month we would like to just show our staff how much we appreciate them with a little trinket here and there and different notes. Again, that is also funded by our foundation. And then right now, I am currently conducting a staff communication survey to gather feedback on communication trends and needs. And then I would like to do one in the spring as well to kind of help gauge the climate and culture as well and get the evaluation of those new programs. The evaluating the mass communication systems. So we have a mass communication system that includes not only our mass communications, our website and app, and all of that in one. So really, I would love to evaluate that and see what our needs are in our district and see if this is the tool that is truly fitting all of those needs to the best. And so right now, like I said, I'm doing a staff and also a parent survey to see what those needs are so that I can see what holes we need to fill with that. All right, and the last one is the connecting parents to the classroom. So that is what we did the Badger updates. So we kind of modified the parent newsletter that had started last year to the Badger update. And that one on average gets read over 6,000 times a week. So again, I think that's a really good tell of it being read. We're going to continue to publish the annual report. School communication cards, I just kind of want to do something simple that can be grabbed at schools of ways that they can find information about their school. And if they have questions, who to contact. Continue to use social media to share our stories. And then again, I would love to do a parent communication survey to gather feedback on those communication trends and needs and stuff that we are doing throughout the year. And that goes into the evaluation piece was the survey. And then I just continually analyze those analytics on social media, the newsletters and the website to make sure that what we're doing is working, and if we need to adjust mid-year, we can easily do that as well. Any questions?
Appreciate it.
I don't have a question, but just a comment. I've had a couple people comment on the Friday Night Lights Facebook post out there, just how great that was, the number of picks and things such as the cheer and students and band, not just football players. So
Yes, that
very
is
good job on that.
It's a great night with that first football game to be able to grab as many different groups. And I took over 1,000 pictures, so I only posted a very small selection, but I'll definitely be sharing those with the coaches. And then my goal is, as I do those different activities and sports throughout the year, those coaches then share a link to all the pictures with those families, and they can download them for free and use them as they like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave it on for you.
Thank you. And I'm not. Next up is our spotlight report, which is the new teacher induction program.
Good evening, Shannon Tindall, Assistant Director, Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. And tonight like mentioned, I'm going to highlight the new teacher induction program.
I might have to put it back here. There we go.
All right, some components that I want to highlight of the new teacher induction program is we've been working on this for the last 3 years, and we've really had a revitalization of the program, and it continues to transform annually. It is currently a 1-year program, and we have a tiered approach. What we found out is that we're having new staff with varying needs. Some are in the system for 1 year, it's their first year teaching, some have been retired and they're coming into our system for a second career opportunity. And some are teaching math, some are school psychologists, and so we have adopted a tiered approach to meeting their individual needs. One focus is that we use in-district people such as our coaches, classroom teachers as mentors, and we use them to train our staff. So it's very inclusive to our district. We have a focus on choice and self-reflection for personal development. We wanted to make it individualized and have them personalize it to grow as individuals and educators. And then we have them interact with multiple resources throughout our district, from the Office of Curriculum Instruction, Human Resource, the school foundation, to individual departments, and so we wanted to give them vast resources throughout our district. All right, 3 of the outcomes for our new staff are, the first one is just the introduction to BPS. We always say the Bennington way, and we want them to know what is our climate, what is our culture, our expectations and procedures. So it's just familiarizing them with Bennington. The next one is to make connections, build professional connections to help them with the support and resources we have within our district and to prolong their longevity within our system. And then the last one is their personal growth that I mentioned. We want to provide new staff with opportunities to self-reflect and grow professionally. There's many choices within our program, and I'll explain those a little more, but they can self-evaluate and choose how they want to grow through the program. Thank you. All right, the biggest idea is to this for the district, it helps us recruit and retain high quality staff. When we go into interviews, quite frequently the teachers, new staff coming into our program ask what our new teacher induction program looks like because they want to grow, they want the support, and they know that's important to learn the system. Thanks, Stacy. I should let you run it. All right, our new teacher cohort this year has 63 new staff members. 2 of them joined our staff halfway through the year last year, but we thought it was important that they participate this year. So they're going through the program. 19 are assigned to elementary, 20 are assigned to secondary, which encompasses middle and high school. 11 new staff assigned as specialists, that's your PE, your music, your library, and 11 new staff assigned as student services, special education, speech pathologist, our psychologist, and are included in that. 31 of those were new positions, so it's about half and half for new positions by the Curriculum Americanism Committee approved last year, and the rest were just transition of staff. And 18 of those are brand new to the profession. So you can see that we hired a lot of experience last year. All right. Once we have our hires all done, we categorize them into 3 categories. That's why we have a tiered approach to what they experience based on number of years, where they're assigned. And so the 3 categories are regular education, specialist, and student services that I described in the previous slide. And each one has different experiences. And so you can look under the regular education, there's elementary and secondary. And then the specialist and then the student services all have many components that are the same. The summer HR tech day, 5 to 3 district orientation days, depending on what content area you're assigned it to. 5 principal check-ins where they meet with their principals 5 times throughout the year, just the new teachers. 5 mentor conversations, they're each assigned a mentor and they have 5 opportunities to meet with those mentors throughout the year. And this is where there is some fluctuation of the requirements. As you can see under elementary, they attend 2+ choice sessions, but then for the specialist and high school, they attend 4+ choice sessions. The reason for that is because there's some other requirements for our student services in the elementary and our elementary teachers. In the elementary setting, we have math and reading specialists, and they do a coaching session with our new teachers. And so that's where the varied requirements are. We also have them meet with our tech integrationists for one session where they fill out a Google form. McKinsey works with them on where they feel they want to grow in the area of technology, because there's varying abilities within that area too. And then the final thing is, I think I went over it, the instructional coaching at the elementary. So those are just some of the components. So if we dive deeper into those program components, the principal check-ins are timely agendas that have to do with what's going on in that building at the time. You can see later, you can spend some time clicking on that agenda. That's a sample of agenda that we might give the principals, but then they put in the flavor of their own building and what is to expect coming up in their own buildings. The mentor conversations, like I said, take place 5 times a year. Mentors are appointed at this time. The administration suggests them. They do the communication, and then we appoint one mentor to one new teacher. And you can see the December conversation. Once again, timely events that are coming up, maybe conferences, if we're in purchasing season, how do you do a requisition, just different things and processes within our district. And the final thing is the choice session that I mentioned, that varies from 2 to 4, depending on where you're assigned. We offer 20 after-school sessions for about 45 minutes, ranging in different topics from classroom management, how to build relationships, technology, good instructional strategies, and they can choose those. But they just have a required number to attend. And I want to say about those choice sessions, those are all offered from our in-house people, so it also gives our in-house people an opportunity to share their talents and build their leadership opportunities. And so we like that it's highlighting our own people. All right. So every year we evaluate our program. I said annually we're updating and improving it because we want it to be a great experience. And how do we evaluate the new teacher induction program? Well, at the end of the year, we have a celebration for our new teachers with food and drink. You kind of saying, yay, you made it through your first year, come back for more next year, please. And we give them a survey. And we've really used that survey to morph the program into what it is today. What we've heard from them, some of the things that we've changed for our program is more time embedded to meet with their building administration. That relationship was very important to them, and so they wanted more time. So we took away some of the required meetings with district office and put it back in the building so they can build those relationships, and it has the uniqueness of each building and that administrator. The tiered approach also came from a suggestion. A school psychologist doesn't need math content or stuff like that. So that's where the choice sessions came from, and the tiered approach was from that survey. And then one other thing that has come and will be something of our future recommendation, they said they wanted mentors that were highly engaged. That relationship was one of the most important components of the program. And if the mentor isn't engaged with a mentee and doesn't give their full attention to it, it's not beneficial for them. And so we'll talk about that a little more on the next slide. The next thing we look at is every year, our teachers in their first through 3 years each get a formal evaluation and a summative evaluation is written up. And so we go through those and look for trends and areas of improvement, and then we formulate our professional learning and our choice induction sessions based on some of those needs we see. We know that in the first 3 years, why is this program so important? Number one, it is a recruitment piece for new teachers, but number two, 30% of teachers leave the profession in the first 3 years. And what makes a difference in them staying in teacher job satisfaction is a mentor program and a strong mentor relationship that helps them assimilate into our system. A good school culture, relationships. We all like to get along with somebody that we work with, and the school leadership remains a top factor too. And so that is our focus of that. You can see it throughout our program. All right, future considerations. I just mentioned how important that buy-in by that mentor and the dedication to this program is. So last spring, you all, thank you, the Board of Education approved a program to pay mentors stipend. But along with that was going to be highly qualified mentors for the program. And so what we're going to do is we're working on this year for this program to be implemented in the spring and summer and fall and going into next year. That at the building level, we're going to ask for administration to nominate or select mentors. Those mentors are ones that are willing to be trained and go through training and willing to be dedicated to the program. And then the mentors will be paid on a sliding scale, so we might select 2 to 3 from each building, just depending, and we'll grow the program from year to year and train more people. But they'll be paid a stipend on a sliding scale, depending on how many mentors they're assigned. There may be only be 1 in Pine Creek, but 4 at Heritage, and so we're gonna pay them on how many staff members they support in that year. We do think the benefit of this program is going to be formally trained in mentoring. Before, we just rely on their great personalities and their knowledge. Well, now we're going to formally train them how to be a strong mentor and, listening skills and how to support people and things like that. Higher commitment to the program. The mentors are going to be committed. Number one, they've made the dedication to be trained and they're getting paid for their additional time to support these individuals. And then consistency in the content. If we train them and we say this is our expectations, then they'll be more consistent in what they offer our new teachers. So after we then morph our program for this mentor stipend program, we want to look to a 2-year mentorship program. We know that the support just doesn't go away at 1 year. It takes 3 years to simulate to a new curriculum, to a new environment, to really know your job well. And so we want to look to add a 2nd year to the mentorship. It won't be as rigorous as the 1st year, but it'll be continued support and check-ins. We hope that it'll provide choice in professional development, more specialized for people going through our system for their 2nd year, connections to the school environment, more formalized opportunities for collaboration. It's easy to hide in your room, but if you have to collaborate, and we know strength is in collaboration and learning from others, and then a solid foundation and connection to BPS. Going back to the big picture, we want longevity in our system and highly qualified staff. All right, that is it. What questions do you have for me?
You answered mine last bit.
Yeah, is it one-to-one mentorship or is?
It is right now, but as we train those mentors and want the best highly qualified mentors, it could be 1 to 4. I don't think we'll exceed 4. We hope in the 1st year to train 2 to 3 mentors in each building, and we'll give them. Dr. Hogue and I have been working with the ESU 3 to develop this program, and we hope to get the training in the spring, the summer, and then they will be the mentors. So their caseload may increase a little, but the compensation will be there.
I love this, it's exciting.
Thank you for approving it.
All right, I think that brings us to our unfinished business. We have a couple policies that were some stragglers that we didn't get in last month, I believe. Am I skipping over something?
No, you're good. Yeah, these were, a couple stragglers that we got first reading last month.
Right. So do we want to do a refresh really quickly on what the 2 of them are and then take a motion?
Yeah, sure can. Policy 60502 is the alternative education program. This change came about with LB 705. And there's a rewrite of the Student Discipline Act, and part of that had to do with how we were going to educate students that were pending expulsion or during suspension. So the state now mandates that the district must ensure that suspended or expelled students have the opportunity to continue with their schooling. This is not going to be a change for Bennington. Bennington has always done that, but now it will be within this policy. Policy 60415 is information related to dyslexia. This is a new reporting requirement by the state of Nebraska that we have to provide information related to dyslexia within the school system each year. That includes the number of students tested for a learning disability with characteristics of dyslexia, those identified with having a reading issue, including dyslexia, and the growth shown for those students identified with those reading issues. And so we'll collect that data and then have to report it to the state each year on July 1st. And this will be putting that in policy.
All right, I move to revise policy 605.02, alternative education program, and add policy 604.15, information related to dyslexia.
Second.
Second. Rock, paper, scissors?
We'll go Steve. Go with Steve. Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay. Sorry, you were reaching for your mic, so. All right, did we call the roll? Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Christie? Yes. Kara? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Allison? Yes. Motion passes. And I think that brings us to our new business for this evening, which is to discuss, consider, and take action on maintenance and transportation purchases. I think I highlighted a few of these. Sorry to steal your thunder, but help us understand what the.
Yeah, we just have a few purchases there that the Building and Finance Committee has discussed here really in the last 3 meetings. Start with the sound system up at Badger Stadium. If you've been to a soccer game or graduation or to a football game in the track meet in the last year or two, our sound system really is not built for a facility with that many people. And so we look to upgrade that system. What we would like to do is purchase a system that will not only fit what we have right now and support the stadium that we have now, but if we were to renovate the stadium and expand the stadium, this system could be expanded as well and could fit the needs of a future expansion at Badger Stadium. And so we got multiple bids on this. Electronic Sound is a company that I've worked with for many, many years, back to my days in Bellevue. They installed our sound system at Chieftain Stadium. They installed our sound system at our auditorium. And so we're recommending that we go with that $35,900 bid with Electronic Sound for the sound system at Badger Stadium. High school window replacement. We've had some leaks in the windows in the library or in the media center for many years. We could not get someone to bid out those windows. We finally were able to get a solid bid for those windows. And so at $7,316, that was our recommendation there as well. Busing, as we've continued to add routes and add activities, the need for buses is always there. Mr. Edens has searched high and low and continues to keep his eye out for busing. We were able to find one that was a used bus, had 111,000 miles on it, but had air conditioning, coincidentally. As it got really hot here the last couple of weeks, it's a coincidence completely, but we found one with air conditioning. We have it here on campus. We're inspecting it right now. At $16,500, we thought that would be a good purchase to use primarily for activity routes. And then we are still in search of a van for the district. We had our 1999 mail van breakdown, and we are in search of a van that we can use for mail. Right now we're using a Suburban, but because of the size of the Suburban, all of our deliveries have to be doubled, which takes a lot more time, obviously, to get our district mail distributed around Bennington Public Schools. Question I can answer for those 4 purchases. You can see the funds that we're using to pay for those at the bottom of the total cost.
We'd also asked if we could get some authorization to purchase the new van. We don't have one. We don't know what that would be, but again, kind of like the environment we were in with 10 passengers before, we would have one here for your approval if we could find the right one. And so if the right one did pop up, we'd like to be able to jump on that pretty quickly. Be a used van, obviously. We're not looking for anything new, just something that's has the right, it gets used for multiple purposes, not just the mail. I think our van uses it to haul around some equipment and other programs do as well. So we're kind of looking for a certain, have a certain amount of cargo space in it.
Does have any concerns about that? Do you have a price point on that you want authorization for? Or
I don't even know what it would be, to be quite honest, at this point. And if you wanted to work through the Building and Finance Committee, we can totally do that as well. just don't even know what to tell you.
Okay.
We had them on the hook for, I want to say it was like $17,000 that then we lost out on. And so I don't know if we'll find the one similar or not.
Just go really quick. It's difficult, but sometimes by the time we call, they're already gone. And so it's just a hard process to find one.
Are you guys looking for like one, like a U-Haul type structured van? Is that what you're talking about?
Right
Or are you talking about just?
now we're using 10 passenger vans, like we've used in the past, yeah.
The seats are taken out so they can transport equipment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You can shell out of 10 passengers, that way you get all the cargo space in here. So they just don't exist right now.
Well, maybe it makes sense for it to run through the building and finance committee unless someone else has a different suggestion or you want to do a price point, but if we don't have a good price point, it would make sense. We're meeting regularly, so
That sounds great.
you guys okay with that? Okay.
To actually contact and find one is gonna be a needle in a haystack right now, it's been terrible. So we have been, building finance has been trying, so that there's nothing there. So it's gonna be a last second deal that we have to jump on.
Okay.
All right,
Any other questions I can answer?
No.
No?
Okay, thank you.
There is a motion on the floor.
move for approval of all purchases as presented and authorized, authorize the superintendent to, well, or the committee, I guess, to purchase or approve the purchase of a new van.
New to us, use preferably.
Right.
Second.
Any further discussion? Jody Caldwell?
Allison?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the next item is to review the 23-24 budget projections and timeline, which
Yeah, we kind of covered
covered
it.
that, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys had an opportunity, if you had any questions about what was presented earlier, I'd be happy to answer them.
Have we looked at, and I know one of the, I think Carol or one of the people were talking about that, but I've heard this a couple times. What is the deal with the highest debt per student in the nation? Is that just based on our growth? Have you looked into it? Do you know?
As far as that particular stat, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that just the amount of buildings that we've had to add in such a short period of time is just gonna, it creates a debt ratio that most districts would never have to face.
A lot of it's gonna be facilities.
It's just facilities, yep, that's all it boils down to. And kind of to Carol's point earlier, we have one of the higher levies in the metro, and we all know that in the state of Nebraska. A big portion of that just goes to facilities, just to house students, because if we didn't have facilities, we don't know where to put them. And so that's just part of our unique story. With that, our actual spending on programming and on teachers and on the student is the lowest in the state of Nebraska. And so while there are other schools that will spend more on their per student for the programming and personnel, we don't have that. We do the best that we possibly can in the situation. But when you look at the whole, we just do have a lot that goes to facilities. And just with the rapid growth that we've had and the fastest growing school districts in the state of Nebraska, it's just a lot of it's housed in facilities. That creates the debt because obviously we don't have the funds to do that long issues.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish there was an answer to it. There's not necessarily an answer, it's just the story that we have.
Any questions? I know we had a budget retreat, and I appreciate you going into detail and giving us all of the background information so everybody's has an understanding of what's happening. So maybe that's a function of why we have fewer questions and been able to answer those. So thank you for that.
Yes, I know communication on the budget has been very good this year.
Yes.
It's been great.
I do, well, actually, I got one more question. I know the current bonds, because I've asked this question already, when we've discussed it, but the current bonds, we can't pay down early, but generally speaking, we really haven't been in a position to pay them down early, even if we could pay them down early, is that correct?
Correct, and so I was pulling up this, so in case I need some information on our bonds. Essentially, the way that they are currently structured, the payment that we are making every year is increasing. And so it's based on our valuation, assuming the assumption of valuation increasing as well as it has and gone beyond projections. And so we're starting to turn a corner a little bit. Like I said before, the 6.5% for the next 4 years to make payment, that used to be more than 6.5%. And so just as quickly as we've grown, it's not all necessarily the individual house, a lot of those new houses that are being put in, obviously. When it comes to paying down bonds, and I had a little bit of fuzziness, I think, during the retreat when you had asked that question. The way that works is we have, you have to have the bond for over 5 years before you can call parts of it. And then if you want to call parts of it, you can do it in $5,000 increments. And so we only have one bond in our series. And when I say one bond, we think, oh, we passed 6 bonds, we have 6. No, we have like, I don't know, it was like 10, 11, 12 bonds because we don't sell them all at one time. We don't do it in chunks. We only have one series, that's the 2018 bond, that's even available for us to call at this point. But we don't necessarily have the funds to pay it down, a bunch down right now, because any funds we have in the bond fund are to make payments in the future. And something that happens with the bonds that people don't realize is you end taxing and then you have the last payment and then you pay the last payment. And so you're always trying to get to where you can make that last payment as well. And so there appears to be funds there at the end of the bond process now. So how do you make your last payment? And so as far as, I know that there's some questions on just our debt ratios and how that works. We're getting to the point where we're gonna start making some pretty big principal payments each year. So just looking at this year is, we're going to pay off $3.6 million in principal. In 26, 27, it's $5.8 million. And so we're kind of getting to the structure where we'll be paying down principal in a lot faster way than we have in the past, at least how they're currently structured. But as far as actually just paying them off, we just want to go, pay off $5 million in bonds. We only have one series that we even have that option to do, and we don't necessarily have tons of funds to do that.
Yeah, we don't have the funds.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we do ask for those bonds and they get approved, just so we understand kind of that process and whatever that number is, because you said we, instead of 6 bonds, we have 11, just because of when we took the bond out or sold the bond to get the money, right? So,
it might be more than 11, but yeah.
Right, or whatever that number
Yes.
is, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if we're gonna ask the Bennington community for a new bond moving forward to build a school, whatever that amount ends up being, that doesn't necessarily, when we approve that, or if we approve that we're taking that money at that time and we'll owe the money, we're gonna do it in increments as when it's needed, correct?
That's how we did it.
I think I was I'm not certain I followed that exactly.
So for example, if we're gonna ask the community for a bond for the new high school, maybe another elementary, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, if the community does approve that bond, we're not necessarily taking a loan or a bond out that day for that amount. It's really going to go in increments as that process goes through, right?
So generally a portion of the project you would take out in a fairly quick manner, because that would be doing the footings and be doing the dirt work. And then, you gotta pay your contractors for doing that work. And then they come in and they start to erect the building, and okay, now we need another set of funds to start paying contractors that are associated with that. Then you kind of get to the end, and this is all, could be in 1 or 3 or 4 phases, however it's done, depending on the length of it. Then you might come back and then sell the remainder of them for all the contractors that are on the finishes of the project, or, that you still own from the middle of it. So it does come out in multiple phases.
Right, so potentially there's going to be more than just that one single one, correct?
Yeah, so the voters, if that was the case, would approve, whatever that dollar amount is, and then we would, and then we would have to, issue those bonds in phases as it went.
Right. So that's how we get the multiple bonds.
Yeah.
Versus just.
Yeah, and then they've been refinanced, so it is a little bit complicated here compared to most places.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't have a question, but I do want to just thank you all for your work on the budget and all the finances and everything that you all are doing to try to streamline the process and help it be more palatable to those of us that finance is not our first understanding. So it is much appreciated.
Thanks, Christy. And we're going to have on our district website, hopefully by tomorrow, kind of all, not only just this presentation, but we'll have another one that kind of has our story, so each of those areas kind of broken down, provides a little bit more information, try to do it in an easily understandable way. at the end of the day, school finance is just super complicated because there's so many working parts. And so trying to get that down in a simplified way, we're going to do that as best we can when we get on the website. Thank you.
If there's any motion with respect to the budget, so I guess we will highlight our upcoming meetings, which there are quite a few. Our next regular meeting is October 9th. It's a regular board meeting at 6 o'clock here in the district office. We do have a special meeting on September 25th related to the budget approval at 6 p.m. here as well. And then we have some upcoming committee meetings, building and finances meeting, curriculum and policy are all meeting. So lots of meetings.
25th.
Yes.
We got a lot going on.
Yes. All right, I don't think there's any further business. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
So Jody call the roll.
Christie?
Yes. Carol? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Allison? Yes. Jerry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:33.